Hello and welcome to another episode of Chuchu as a Ranker. On this episode we're going to be continuing our albums of the year list. This time it's 2007, so yeah, 2007, a lot of post-punk and a lot of art rock, but hey, I like those genres, so this is another good year for me. So without further ado, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. These are my personal top 10 albums of 2007. So, we're going to be kicking off this list with An End Has a Start, which was the second album by Editors. Yeah, and on this album, the band are throwing themselves pretty damn hard at stadium rock. All the corners on this record have been filled out to sound as epic as possible, which I think is actually a bit of a drawback, as it overcooks everything somewhat. That said, it is mercifully saved by some really good, solid, dark-hued post-punk songwriting, and to that end, this album is significantly darker than the debut, with a lot of the youthful zeal sacrificed for more grandstanding emotional fare. And yet, the track listing is pretty consistent, with highlights including the band's highest charting single, the opening Smokers Outside the Hospital Doors, which sounds not unlike a post-punk Coldplay. An End Has a Start, Bones, and The Racing Rats all have a harder rocking element. The latter impresses with its chorus of, "If a plane were to fall from the sky, how big a hole would it leave in the surface of the earth?" Push Your Head Towards the Air is more Coldplay aping balladry, and sparse piano closer Well Worn Hand is a thing of moribund beauty. So yeah, this album isn't quite perfect, but it is at least striving to be perfect and is more than good enough to be curtain jerking this list. Next up we have 14 Autumns and 15 Winters, which was the debut album by Scottish post-punk maestros The Twilight Sad. On this album, the band are combining shoegaze wall of sound distortion with weeping melodies and Scottish folk leanings. And this album, despite its heaviness, has a languorous, almost ambient feel to it. It's a record designed to be absorbed on snowy days in a state of resigned relaxation. That said, singer James Graham's lyrics can be somewhat intense, whether it be labelling his father the dreaded C word on the growling album highlight That Year at Home I Had Become the Invisible Boy, or concocting violent images of romantic stabbings with a knife in your chest on Here It Never Snowed. I also have to say that I love the timbre of his voice. The deep Scottish brogue he sings with makes me go wobbly in the knees. Other highlights include the thunderous Mapped by What Surrounded Them, the defeated sinking feeling of taking the train home, and the awesome single And She Would Darken the Memory with its super memorable chorus of "Head up dear, you're shallow and blind, and head up dear, the rabbit may die." Oh, that Scottish voice, it kills me. So yeah, this is just a great debut album from a band that we'll definitely be seeing more of on these lists. Next up we have Break the Banks, which was the debut album and, sadly, only album by Smith's aping indie band Battle. And hey, Chuchu is a Ranker audience. If you like Morrissey and or 90s Britpop, then this is one to tuck away for a rainy day, as it's absolutely great and a magnificent hidden gem. This band sounds like artists such as Gene, Shed 7 and Echo Belly, basically that whole subset of Britpop bands that was highly indebted to the Smiths, but mixed with a more modern, angular block party element. So yeah, this album is 10 songs, 39 minutes, and there's not a weak track in sight. Highlights include the rhythmic opener The Longest Time with its booming drums. Demons has a frantic performance by singer Jason Van Paper Street is a beautiful building ballad that fuzzes out hard at its conclusion. History is none more Smiths, it's about as catchy gets, and Closer, The Other Way, ends the album with a cathartic flourish. So yeah, it's a shame Battle broke up almost immediately after this album's release, but they did leave behind a beautiful corpse. This debut album, their mini album Back to Earth, and the handful of singles that they released are all pretty much perfect. go check this band out basically. I doubt you'll be disappointed, except for, well, the fact that, you know, they broke up. Coming in next, we have the monumentally dark Elegies to Lessons Learned, which was the debut album by I Like Trains, and the question is, how dark can you go? If you can go into the gothic pits of hell, then this record is definitely for you. Joy Division and pornography era Cure is where this record lives, and is categorized by slow, dirgy waltz time arrangements, walls of shoegaze distortion, and singer Dave Martin's monotone voice. And at this point in their career, all of I Like Trains' songs were about historical events, or more precisely, pessimistic historical events. This is a concept album of sorts, dedicated to the failures of history, and the special edition that I bought came with a book detailing the history behind each song, which sounds cool until you go to Wikipedia to find out more, and discover that it is Wikipedia, just copied and pasted. Now that's a thrifty special edition. That aside, this is a really atmospheric listen with tons of great songs on it. Highlights include the Black Plague inspired opener We All Fall Down, the seasick thunder of The Deception, the rolling drums and evil energy of We Go Hunting, the 10-minute opus of Spencer Perceval, who was the only British Prime Minister to get assassinated by the way, and the gorgeous piano funeral march of closer Death Is the End. Basically, if you like post-punk, then this album is an absolute no-brainer. Great stuff. Coming next, we have Yours Truly Angry Mob, which was the sophomore album by Britpop-infused Melody Mongers Kaiser Chiefs. The band's debut album Employment tends to get all of the critical praise, but I much prefer this album. I think it sounds fuller, more fleshed out, more consistent, and just has better songs. This is exactly how I always wanted Blur to sound, but never quite got. Thankfully, the Kaisers are here to plug that hole, and yet, this album has a near flawless track listing and is just stuffed full of melodies and choruses to die for. Highlights include the unbelievably hooky #1 single Ruby, 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 Ruby! The sing-along baiting Angry Mob, the stuttering Heat Dies Down, the throbbing laddishness of My Kind of Guy, and the Kinks aping Everything Is Average Nowadays. So yeah, if you're yearning for a little bit more of that 90s Britpop spice, this record should definitely cure what ails you. So, we're going to be kicking off this top 5 with Make Another World, which was the 5th album by Scottish noise merchants Idlewild. And yet, their previous album, Warning's Promises, had switched from rocking punk to a more stately kind of folk rock, and well, it just really didn't go down very well with the band's fan base. So on this album, they have walked it back and reunited with their heavier sound. But there's also progression here, as singer Roddy Womble had really improved as a lyricist in the few years prior to this, and he uses that improvement to unleash a set of lyrics that have much more emotional scope and depth to them. This album still remains one of the band's most emotionally engaging records. At 36 minutes long, it also has brevity on its side, and a flawless track listing to boot. Highlights include the stomping title track Make Another World, the mournful trumpets of Future Works, the sublime romantic ballad of You and I Are Both Away. Chef's kiss for that one, I absolutely love that track, just check that one out. You also have the stomping catchy pop glides of A Ghost in the Arcade and No Emotion, and the end of the summer vibes from closer Leave Me Gone. So yeah, Make Another World is a damn fine album that should have done way more business than it ultimately did, just another great record from Idlewild. Next up, we have Our Love to Admire, which was Interpol's third LP and also the band's major label debut. Perhaps inevitably, this finds Interpol trying for a more mainstream sound. Basically, this is as close to a pop record as Interpol have ever made, and to that end, a lot of the band's fans dismissed this record as something of a sellout. I don't agree. I like pop and I like this record. Although peppered with catchier hooks, I still think the brooding cool of the band remains intact. Opener Pioneer to the Falls is an Interpol standard. That middle part where Paul Banks repeatedly intones "You fly straight into my heart" before concluding "Here comes the Falls" just as the huge guitars kick in. Oh man, it's just awesome. Likewise, both Rest My Chemistry and All Fired Up feel wrapped in sweat, sex and copious amounts of drugs, while The Scale with its cool backwards guitars crackles with machismo. Other highlights include the thunderously stomping Mammoth, the mid-album ballad Paces the Trick, and the glittering indie disco single Heimlich Maneuver. So yeah, I love this album and played the absolute shit out of it back in the day. Great stuff from Interpol here. Coming in third place and taking home the bronze medal, we have Block Party's second album, A Weekend in the City, which is undoubtedly my favourite record by them. Yeah, and on this album, the band move away from the reverb-heavy atmosphere and rhythmic dynamism of their debut album towards a more streamlined indie rock sound, which was a change that didn't entirely sit well with the critics, but as I said, I prefer this record as the melodies, whilst yet a bit more predictable, are just a bit stronger and more satisfying. This album also delves into social commentary with both feet and is one of the most overtly politicized records I can think of. Opener Song for Clay, Disappear Here, rails on celebrity culture and the rich. Hunting for Witches tempers its incredibly catchy chorus with lyrics about the media perpetuating fear of terrorism. Uniform rails against trends that make everybody look the same and how the government preys on the sheep-like nature of youth. And Where Is Home tackles racism and the far right. And yeah, at the time I thought it was a breathtaking set of lyrics, but these days I'm a bit cooler on it. A lot of the lyrics are just a little bit too much on the nose, and I now tend to gravitate towards a more emotional side of the record, which also has plenty of substance. Krasberg is a gorgeous ballad that decries meaningless hookups. I Still Remember is a Smith's tale of schoolboy romance. It's just utterly beautiful. Sunday is a straight up love song, and Closer, SRXT, deals with depression and suicide. The moment where Kelly sings, "I called up Eugene and told him I was drowning," just gets me every single time. I don't know who the fuck Eugene is, but it still makes my heart crack. So yeah, A Weekend in the City is a killer sophomore effort from Block Party and an easy placing on this list. Silver medal time, and the silver medal is going to go to The Neon Bible by Arcade Fire, which was the band's sophomore album. The albums released either side of this one tend to get more of the critical acclaim, but I really love this record. I love the darker tone, the atmosphere and the lyrics. There are 11 songs and all of them are absolutely essential. The record kicks off with Black Mirror, which gave the TV show its name, and features the unbelievably cool lyric, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, show me where them bombs will fall." It's such a badass and dark way to kick off the album. Keep the Car Running is a jaunty single and sounds like it probably inspired Coldplay's Lovers in Japan. Neon Bible is a beautifully melodic stripped back number, while Intervention is huge with its massive church organs and awesome chorus of "Working for the church where your family dies." Just so cool. Black Wave Bad Vibrations is masterful. It kicks off light and fluffy as kind of an off-kilter female-led pop song, but halfway through it slows down and switches into an evil-sounding slice of roaring post-punk with the lyric, "Nothing lasts forever, that's the way it's gonna be. There's a great black wave in the middle of the sea," being particularly meaningful for me as I was in Japan during the 2011 earthquake and tsunami, which was a hell of a thing to experience firsthand, I can tell you that. The album also closes with a couple of absolute bangers. No Cars Go feels like a sister song to Funeral's epic Wake Up. An album highlight, My Body is a Cage, is one of the greatest closers of all time, with church organs that just seem to build and build and build to epic proportions. It is awesome. So yeah, The Neon Bible is a pretty essential record and an easy second placing on this list. So here we are at the top of the mountain, and the gold medal for 2007 is going to go to In Rainbows by Radiohead, which makes Radiohead the second ever two-time winner. I guess anything can happen going forward. Anyway, at the time of recording, the band had fallen out with EMI over ownership of the band's back catalogue and refused to resign with the label, instead choosing to self-release this record, becoming the first major act to use the pay-what-you-want method of selling, which at the time was a heavily debated act. And the album itself represents a real return to form for the band. 10 songs, 42 minutes long, the album doesn't put a toe wrong and every track earns its place. The record has a much warmer, more personal tone than the previous albums, which is also reflected in the lyrics. There's much more of a romantic or emotional bent to these songs, but it's in the sonic texturing that this album really scores huge wins. The production here is rich and warm, and it pulls every iota of potential from these songs. It's just a stereophonic joy to listen to, with little details coming at you from every angle. This is an album that completely envelops you with sound. As I said, every song on this is great, from the jumbled rhythms of openers, 15 Steps and Body Snatchers, which sets out the stall nicely, connecting the experimental synth work of Kid A and Amnesiac with warmer tones and stuttering guitars. Nude is a beautifully restrained ballad, kicking off with the ear-catching lyric, "Don't get any big ideas. They're not gonna happen." All I Need and House of Cards feature creaking bass and ambient synth atmospheres, while the duo of closers, Jigsaw Falling Into Shape and Videotape, are also spectacular. Jigsaw Falling Into Shape has a really cool rhythmic swagger to it, whilst Videotape feels like a lonely clock hand twitching its way towards certain doom. My favourite off of this though is Weird Fishes / Arpeggi, with its descending melody and invasively sad atmosphere. It feels appropriately like sinking into the sea. So yeah, on the 10-year anniversary of the band's seminal OK Computer, Radiohead once again managed to pull magic from thin air and create the best album of 2007. And that's it. That's my 2007 list, but that might not be your list. Your list might look completely different. Please sound off in the comment section and tell me all the classics that I've missed. Like, share, subscribe, and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Make sure to check back for my 2008 list. Take care of yourself, but most importantly, just keep on ranking.